Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, we would be talking about conditional sentences. This is Oxford Practice Grammar by John Eastwood. We would be discussing conditional sentences from this. So let's begin with conditional 1 or first conditional. So as the name suggests, conditional sentences talk about certain conditions and certain actions or results as a result of those conditions. So we are talking about some possible future actions. By possible, we mean they are dependent on certain conditions. Okay. So for example, let's see. Here is an example. Come on, Rachel. If we hurry, we will catch the 9:30 bus. So that means if we hurry, we will catch the bus. Okay. So these are two clauses. One is if clause and other is the main clause. Okay. So in this sentence, we would see there's one condition with if clause and then there is a possible result or possible action. Now she replies, there's no rush. If we miss it, there will be another in 15 minutes. Okay, so there is another example. If we miss it, so again there is a if clause and then there is an other sentence. We will find an other bus in 15 minutes. Okay, so let's see. Now, if we hurry, we'll catch the bus. So this is type 1 sentence. So there is one if clause, okay, if, and then there's other clause which is in will. Okay, so we would see the first clause, if clause, is in present simple tense. If we hurry. Which tense is this? This is present indefinite tense or present simple tense. So if clause is written in present indefinite tense and main clause is written with will. So this is a condition. If we hurry, okay, we will catch the bus. If we miss it, there will be an other one. Okay, if it doesn't rain, we know we use do or does with present simple tense. If it doesn't rain, we will be having a picnic. So these are the examples for type 1 conditions in which if clause is in present tense and the main clause or the result is in future. So we use first conditional for possible or likely events in the context. Okay, possible means two things that we know in our context are more likely to happen. Okay, so for example, we know that if we hurry, we will find the bus. Okay, or we can also say if we do this, this will happen. So we know for sure that something is the result of something else. So the main clause would be will. Okay, so if we do something, we will do something else. So that would be its result. Okay, if we miss it, there will be another one, and so on. Okay, so if clause is in present simple tense and the main clause is will, such a type of conditional is called type 1 condition. Now we see here the verb is in if clause is the present simple, not the future. Okay, because we are talking in the present context. We can use will in the if clause when we make a request. We know that we use present future tense, the use of will in the context of present simple tense when we make a request or we are being formal. In that context, we can use will in the if clause as well. Okay, if you will just wait a minute or moment. So that would mean that we are requesting someone, if you will just do this for me. So it is a more informal context, but the sense is same of present simple tense. Okay, if you will just wait a minute. If you will do this. Okay, we are talking in present context, but we are using will to show politeness or request. In that context, we can use will here. And the main clause would retain same and it would also be in will. We can use the present continuous such as are doing or the present perfect in the if clause. So he says we can use present continuous or present perfect instead of present simple as well. For example, if we are expecting visitors, the flat will need a good clean. So if clause is in present continuous, we are expecting, and the main clause is again will. If you finished with the computer, I will put it away. If you have finished with the computer, I will put it away. So this if clause is present perfect and the main clause is again I will put. Okay, so similarly we can use present tense, and aspect could be different. Okay, so aspect could be either simple or continuous or perfect. Okay, but the tense should be present, and we are talking in the present context, and the result would be in future. So the main clause would be with future and it would have will. Okay, let's see some more examples. The main clause often has will, but we can use other modal verbs as well. Okay, if you haven't got a television, you can't watch it. Can you? Okay, so we see you can't watch it. Can you? This is an example of question take. Okay, I hope you remember it from the previous lecture. So we can see that instead of will, we can use other modal verbs as well. Okay, but again, they would give us a sense of future and they are imperative. The if clause usually comes first, but it can come after the main clause. If I hear any news, I will phone you. We can also write, I will phone you if I hear any news. So usually we would put if clause before the main clause, but we can do otherwise as well. Okay, try to practice making certain sentences where you would use the if clause in present tense and the main clause with will. Okay, then try to shift the sentences, try to put the two clauses vice versa, then you'll have fair idea what is this about. So we can see where we can use type 1 conditional. So now it should be clear that type 1, by type 1 conditional, we mean the actions which are possible and likely to happen. Okay, so with present in the if clause and future in the main clause, we are talking about type 1. We would talk about type 2 and 3, and then you will have a fair idea. So here is in some more examples. We can use type 1 conditions in offers and suggestions as well. If you need a ticket. If you need a ticket, again it is present tense. I can get you one. I can, we saw that instead of will, we could use other modal verbs. I can get you one. If you feel like seeing the sights, feel like seeing. Again, it is present. We can take a tour bus. Here's another example. We can also use them in warnings and threats. So for offers and suggestions, now we can use them for warnings and threats. Okay, so let's see here. We can use them for offers and suggestions, and then we can use them for warnings and then threats. Okay, so these are the 4 things we can use type 1 sentence, conditional sentences. Then we have, if you heat water, it boils. Now, these are kind of universal truths. Okay, these are sometimes also called zero conditionals, the things that would happen in any way. Okay, so if we heat it, it would boil. We sometimes use the present simple in both cases. So when we are talking about such situations, when something is a universal truth, if water boil, if you heat water, it boils. Okay, so in that case, we would not use that if you heat water, it will boil, but rather it is a universal truth and it would always happen. So we would say it boils, and we would use present for both the cases. Okay, if you heat water, it boils. If Daniel has any money, he spends it. So now it is his habit, and it is likely to happen always. Okay, so for type 1, we were talking about the sentences that will likely happen. So we were using will in the main clause. But now we would be using present simple in both the clauses. So if something happens, something will happen for sure. Okay, if you press the switch, the computer comes on. So again, here you would see it is present, and again this sentence is present as well. Now here is another interesting thing to note on. It says comes on. Okay, so this is also a phrasal verb that we can use for computer turning on. This means that one thing always follows automatically from another. The way I said, it is a universal truth, and if one thing happens, the other will happen automatically and for sure. So in that case, we would use present indefinite or present tense for both. And this is also sometimes called zero conditional, or the way we are talking about type 1. Now this is also called zero conditional, but again, you can also categorize it in type 1. Pressing the switch will always have the computer on. Okay. Now here are certain exercises. If you have this book, or you can take a screenshot from this video, and then you can try doing these exercises. I want your responses in the class, so do this exercise. Maybe you can comment the answers in the chat with your roll number as well. Okay, otherwise we'll discuss this in the class. Okay, if you have any questions, you can also put them in the chat section. I'll try to answer those. Now here's another exercise. You will have to match the sentences and join them with if. Okay, there are two sentences given, there are two clauses. You will have to add if and then join them. Okay, here's one example. If you lose your credit card, you will have to ring the bank. So here is this sentence and then this. This is already done for you. You have to do it for the rest. Okay, complete this exercise and write your answers in the chat, or maybe do it on a page, and then we'll discuss in the class. Okay. So that's it for conditional 1.